introduction, let's look at Last Planner and see what the Last Planner system, so LPS stands for Last Planner System, see how that ties in or what the collaboration on the process is, and see how that is put into practice on the construction site. So Last Planner, it's, as I said there, a more collaborative process. It's a social structure enabling us to put pull control into place. So instead of pushing our traditional thinking and our dictatorship in start dates and durations into the field, what we're doing is we're asking for commitments from the right people at the right time with the right information, and we're asking them to put their thoughts down and essentially be controlled by their own desires or their own abilities, rather than, and it's still trying to meet an overall target, but essentially we're pulling the information rather than pushing the control. And when we're putting things together, when we're putting the Last Planner target schedules together as far as the phase scheduling and how we would go about that social process, we start with some sticky note exercises, and we start at the end of the program, and we start working backwards. It's amazing how starting from the end and working backwards really does help us to ask more questions, and it's all about releasing the work. The process is all about trying to have more reliable promising mechanisms, and essentially it targets the way of starting to refine people's the method in which they promise, and making their promises more reliable means that the plan becomes more reliable. It's more likely that they're going to hit their end dates. The sessions that we hold, it's removing constraints in order to make the work ready. So tasks made ready, TMR is an acronym that we use to describe a task that is now ready to start, and there are no prerequisites, no constraints that haven't been removed. Essentially, that is something we could start tomorrow without any problem. Sometimes, obviously, we're not going to plan all of that work in the next set of, in the forecast or in the look-ahead planning or the weekly work planning meetings, and therefore we will have a list of workable backlog. So if we achieve or overachieve our plan, then we will have workable backlog to be able to go back to. The plan % complete metric is a way of, again, helping to ensure that the promising, the commitments that are made are more reliable and continue to be made more reliable. Plan % complete is a very simple metric that allows us to say how many assignments did we have, and how many in the previous week, and how many did we actually complete as planned. It's a very powerful way of sharing a simple number per responsible person, per Last Planner, to be able to then track their progress in the reliable promising. We aren't always going to complete things as planned. As we know, the industry is a very dynamic one, and there are changes, there are things that we unforeseen conditions and things that we do not expect all of the time. So when we have planned deviation, the plan % complete is lower, obviously something that wasn't completed as planned. That deviation, the cause of deviation, then has to be analyzed. And the process of root cause analysis, so really asking those 5 whys. Why did something go wrong? Why did that cause that to go wrong? What is the chain of reasons or the process that caused the deviation from what we had planned the previous week? Root cause analysis is a very structured way of getting to and nipping in the butt the real causes of the delay, rather than just managing those causes. And that's essentially a large part of why we end up firefighting on site is because we don't really get to the root cause and eliminate the root causes as soon as possible. So the last planner system, I mentioned a few of the terms for these 4 different levels of the schedule. We start off with master scheduling. We move through to phase scheduling. We then use the phase schedules to define and refine the look-ahead plans. So we're looking at 4 to 6 week chunks and trying to plan and increase the level of detail. And then in each of those look-aheads, we're taking, from each of those look-aheads, we're taking the weekly chunks of activities that we're trying to achieve and then breaking them down into a table of assignments in a very social process of capturing it by pen and paper in a meeting room around a table how we're going to carry out items that will mean that we will achieve the plan, and then marking off whether we have achieved each one of those, rating the % complete, and then doing root cause analysis for any of those deviations. So the process is pretty simple. It's a lot more collaborative. It's built on the fact that the last planner, who is the last planner? The last planner is the person responsible for those activities, and deciding at the last responsible moment for how they're going to carry out and how they're going to achieve the overall targets. It's a really very, very good and structured approach to pull planning and also the controlling on the construction site. So the granular day-to-day commitments that are required in order to achieve the plan. Sticky notes form a big part of that. Mentioned starting at the end and running through a series of tasks and making sure that you have all of the prerequisites, all of the work is released to start, making sure that there are no constraints, and it's essentially a very powerful way of interacting with everyone and having them create the plan rather than actually it being something that somebody sits behind a computer and taps out on a spreadsheet or a planning tool, whether it be Flowline or a Gantt chart. This is a way of capturing their commitments in a much more structured fashion.
And Clive, who are the people participating in this process?
Everyone wants to have the guys that are actually going to do the work. So we would like to see the planners, obviously the guys that are going to record this data. We would like to see the foremen, the superintendents that are responsible for managing the work, and we would like to see all of the subcontractors, key personnel who are going to be managing it from the subcontractor sense, but essentially from the contractor sense, carrying out the work, responsible for carrying out the work. The more people, the better in those sessions. The more ideas, and it really raises questions that haven't been thought about. And the concept of using last planner and location-based management together, which is where we're going to move on to, is really bringing these workshop sessions into an earlier phase in the planning and being able to glean better data from the right people at the right time so that we can get a better plan, a more accurate plan to start with.